want to go to heaven? Let me just ask that question one time. Let me share this with you before we leave. Can you imagine? Can you imagine walking on a sealed crystal glass in heaven? Can you imagine walking on streets that are made of pure gold? Can you imagine you can't even buy a gold ring right now, but you have a golden crown around your head? Lord, have mercy. You think that man gonna make you happy by buying you stuff? God gonna make me happy by giving me stuff. God is getting ready. Let me share this with you before I go. God is getting ready to lead us to rivers, fountains of living water. I know I like drinking water now, but the greatest water that we can drink is the fountain of living water that God is going to give us in heaven. Can you imagine being around a whole church full of people, of priests and angels, and the whole time you're in heaven, you never hear no more complaints that you heard in the earth realm at all? The whole time that you're in heaven, you never see no more sickness and disease ever again. And the whole time that you're in heaven, it's just such a beautiful, awesome atmosphere that you hear one angel saying, holy, 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 holy. And you see the 24 elders get off the throne and they put their golden crowns on the ground and they all say the same thing at the same time. And you see Jesus standing in the midst of 7 golden candlesticks, eyes like flames of fire, hair and hair white like wool, feet burnished like brass, like the men of the furnace. And you get one of the greatest prophecies you could ever get. You hear one of the strongest voices that one day than you've ever heard before in your life. Stronger than my voice, stronger than Roy Parsons' voice, stronger than Benny Hinn's voice, stronger than Bishop T.D. Jakes' voice, stronger than Joyce Meyer's voice, stronger than every preacher around the world's voice, Dr. Wayne E. Anderson's voice. And you hear a voice that sounds like many waters. And you hear a voice that sounds like many thunders. And even though it sounds like many waters, your hearing has become so perfect that no loud sound that comes from God will hurt you. Can you imagine being in heaven and all of a sudden the thunders start talking? And you hear them and you hear what the thunders are saying about God. Can you imagine God creating a new earth, a new Jerusalem, and a new heaven just for you and the people that goes with us? Can you imagine Jesus loving us so much that he had already done all that powerful work by building heaven and building the earth? But he said, even though I got a heaven already, a third heaven up there for you, I go to prepare a place for you. And he started back working all over again because his work in the earth realm has already been finished. But even though he said it's finished, he still went to go prepare a place for us, so his work was not finished in heaven. Can you imagine somebody being so strong that they could ascend far above the heavens and sit back down at the right hand of the Father and sit there while work is still being prepared in heaven by their voice? Can you imagine if you was to get the mind of Christ, how much work could be done better in your life and for other people's lives when you speak as the oracles of God? Can you imagine that Paul said, it's better for a man not to marry a woman than to get married and just do the will of God? Can you imagine becoming strong enough that the weather obeys your voice and the things that God created obeys you? Can you imagine that I prayed when it was cold that God would warm it up and the weather got warmer? Can you imagine they say a snowstorm is coming? And I prayed. And prophets asked me to pray. And the snowstorm didn't come, but it's tearing Texas up. Can you imagine the tornadoes was coming? The floods was here. And I prayed. And the flood stopped. The rain stopped. Can you imagine if I tell you that's your husband, why you don't trust me? And I'll say it the last way. You remember I told you that the reason the elements of the air could obey Jesus is because they was God's elements and animals could obey him? God, because they're God's animals and they don't have the same characteristic we have. But we have a choice whether we obey God or not. The whale did not have a choice. The whale did not have a choice. But we have a choice. The donkey did not have a choice. But we have a choice. The lion did not have any choices but to obey God and not kill Daniel. But we have a choice. So God says, I give you a choice to either serve me or serve Satan. I give you the choice to either believe my prophet or deny my prophet. It's your choice. But I will tell you that I love God because I know he still hears my prayers, because even if you don't obey me, the weather does.